mispronouncing what you wrote. So Antimatter Bone Crusher for $3 asks, I have a unifying declaration for the right. Order and hierarchy are really universal. Equality is a fantasy. Well, that's good. The problem with hierarchy is that you can't have general hierarchy. And you can have sort of general chaos, which is why the left has an easier time unifying.
And also, that seems like something that only wins over the already converted. It's a bit, it lacks finesse, right? It's not something that triggers people to think. It's more like a declaration of war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and well, this is always the one thing with, I appreciate the Whiggist perspective, but I'm going to urge you, Sargon, to convince just becoming a Jacobite, right? It's not too late to get the to undo the William of Orange bad decision and get the Stuarts back.
I think it might be way too late for that, to be honest.
No, they're still. I've been told that there are still Stuart kings and in on the continent somewhere, in like Liechtenstein or whatever.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
But
I think it's way too late for that.
But on the hierarchy front, though, the criticism I'm sure you're aware of is that Whiggism is always it's always bent in the direction of the left. Like it tries to maintain a position, but it always slides down towards it because the incentives for the democratic urge are always to deconstruct norms in order to free up power for the democratic process to consume, right?
Well, so, Whiggism is political philosophy for devout Christians, and if you're not a devout Christian, you shouldn't be a Whig.
Yes, so. but it works with Christians because there's an eternal law that cannot backslide. Once all laws become simply pronouncements of dead men, then the sort of left-wing backslide becomes inevitable.
Right. They become French revolutionaries, and they've got nowhere else to go.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's inevitable that if you're not essentially, this is why people are like, oh, are you an atheist? It's like, well, I mean, yeah, but like I'm not in any way interested in undermining Christianity or anything like that. And if someone was like, well, are there good morals in Christianity? I'm like, yes. Okay, moving on. Like, how does it? You don't have a 2,000-year-old religion that conquers the world if it's got nothing decent about it. And more importantly, it's our tradition. All right, we've got nothing else, so just suck it up. That's how I feel about it at this point. Just suck it up.
Well, eventually there's going to have to be, I think, coming to terms with religion in some form. I think, the God of the philosophers probably will work for a lot of people in this interim, but the God of philosophers is never a stable. Like in the Dark Ages, or not the Dark Ages, but the pre-Dark Ages, the decline of the Roman Empire, Christianity's rivals were not like paganism proper. They were all of these like
Mithraism and fucking what else was that? There were loads
Gnosticism, but like these were
Manichaeism and stuff like this.
These were, and they were all kind of cults derived from the philosophers' gods, right? And what I imagine historically, Sargon, is going to happen is people in your position might embrace the Platonic God, but your great grandchildren are going to have a religion that is going to be more populated with I throw it out there, right? But that seems to be the course of human history, right?
Well, here's something interesting. My 7-year-old son, Daniel, about a year ago, he said, "Oh, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus," and I was like, "That's great." And I didn't do anything to dissuade him. And 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have been like, there's no such thing, son, blah, 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 blah. So you can see how much I've changed. In fact, this is good. I don't know why I find this embarrassing to say, but I tell him off when he takes the Lord's name in vain.
I'm horrible at that. I've been raised as an atheist, and I always take the Lord's name in vain. I need to really work on my swearing.
I do too. But I make sure that he doesn't, because it's wrong for him to do it. And
true.
And this is what my grandfather did to me, and it's proper. that that's the case. And so whenever he says, "Oh my God," I say, "Oi, oh my gosh." And I'm not even joking that I do this. I'm not even joking that I do this. This is genuinely something I do. And I enforce it with infallible boundaries. Every time I never let it go, no matter what he's doing. It's the same as when he eats with his mouth open. I just, "Oi, don't do that," every single time. Just because I don't know why. Like I said, I'm not Christian, I'm not religious, but he said he wants to be, and I don't know where he's got this from. I assume it's from his school, but it's very tepid, and I do nothing to persuade him into it. But I'm happy to make sure that there's something that he can feel, that there's something there, and I don't want to ever feel that he can grow up and say, "Oh no, my dad kind of undermined that." I don't want ever that to be the case.
My parents are kind of more on the atheist side, but it's weird. It's weird how this thing evolves. There's a conversation, and we can't have this conversation today because there's not enough time, but there's a dialogue to be had between Christians and pagans. And I get the pagan perspective. Like, I know, like, this intuitive spirituality that's not located in a single God. Like, I feel it, but I think that, I think ultimately the future is going to look a little bit like, it's gonna. There's some questions. Yes,
you hope.
There are just certain spiritual questions that get posed to paganism that it seems to be sort of a degenerate state where these questions kind of draw it in the direction of monotheism naturally, and because of that, I obviously can't promise I hope the future will be Christian, but I feel very definitively that the future of humanity has to look more like an Abrahamic style religion than what people were worshiping in like ancient or pre-Christian in Norway. But this is neither here nor there, so I have to go on. Blow in the Dark for $10. The problem with taking up the left's